Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. Welcome back, Joe.
Thanks, Rick.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I love the conversation. Grassroots Institute is so instrumental at providing substantive information without the filter of news and all that other stuff. It's from you to us.
It's so freeing to be able to say what you think.
Yeah.
You know, we both have jobs like that, right?
True that. Tell us about Grassroots Institute and what will folks experience?
Well, the Grassroots Institute is your think tank, the think tank for the people to defend individual liberty, economic freedom, and limited accountable government. And so we try to reduce taxation, keep more money in your wallet, and also allow you to, participate in the free market. So you should be able to start a business or do things as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others. So makes sense, right?
Yeah.
At grassrootsinstitute.org, you can subscribe to our email newsletter, and we've got 30,000 people that are subscribed in Hawaii reading our stuff. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I don't belong to a political party. Never have. Don't want to. But what I identify with Grassroots is there's a libertarian kind of streak because you really empower the individual and check and balance government, regardless of party affiliation and all that. So that's one thing I appreciate because some of my thoughts are reflective in the studies and analysis that you provide.
Yeah. We actually do have libertarian backgrounds. I myself was once a libertarian candidate way long. What was that, 20? How many years
I
ago
think you
was
ran
that?
against Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi?
I
Yeah.
did indeed. But there are many other people at Grassroots Institute that are, different political minds.
Sure.
But, I belong to the party of think for yourself.
Common sense, baby.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Let's jump in for a couple of things. First of all, we are on Olelo, Channel 53. During this past week, I wanted to tune in and catch some city council hearings. Big one, of course, the veto override.
Right.
But there was a budget committee hearing where Ted appeared and provided testimony. And there's one bill, that Bill 7, that Mayor Blangiardi has been so supportive of, implemented a few years ago, that helps with affordable housing. However, there have been some amendments being suggested by Council Member Tupola and in discussions more. Ted gave his testimony. I believe it was in support of Bill 18, if I'm not mistaken, and that would further embellish the objective of creating affordable housing. What's the position of Grassroots in this area?
Well, affordable housing should be looked at closely because there's ways to waste money in the area. But also, it is a good idea to allow as much as possible. So typically, Grassroots, when we talk about affordable housing, if it's money being doled out, we're kind of against it. But if it's for regulations, removing regulations, then we're for it. Because actually, if you think about what it takes to build, a lot of times people are willing to build for free. You can actually build the housing for free if you just get out of the way. Now, affordable, that word affordable, can muck up the waters because the government has all kinds of definitions and rules and strings attached to that word affordable. But generally, keep the government out of the way and don't give out too many handouts.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When we talk about energy prices, we may not have that much influence or effect. We just have to work with what we got. But when it comes to regulation, we have total, absolute, utter control over regulations that are applied. In your conversations, perhaps even lobbying in regard to regulations, what's the overriding sentiment that is expressed to you about regulations?
Well, everyone seems to know that there are too many regulations. Of course, there's been many studies about this. Hawaii, I think, just got last place in business friendliness
Oh, yeah.
across the nation.
Yeah.
And, the large part due to regulations. So talk to any politician, they'll say, oh, yes, regulations are the problem. But then when you actually point to which ones, they all run for the hills,
Yeah.
it seems. So trying to cut back on regulations is the difficult part. And then the other part is, even if they're willing to, talking about regulations is such in the weeds topic that people fall asleep. So, but the Grassroots Institute does try to look at it step by step, one by one. And we've got all kinds of reports that detail all of these regulations on our website at grassrootsinstitute.org. So, it's a perennial problem. And Hawaii has the worst regulations, the most burdensome. So you could almost just look anywhere, close your eyes, cut with the scissors, and it might do good. So, yeah.
It's the source that we trust. However, there are organizations that unfortunately fumble along the way. I'm not talking smack. I'm just identifying that UHERO had to do a retreat in regard to solar. Come to find out that their report was primarily authored by a solar industry aficionado. I'm being gentle. So when we're apprised of all this type of information, Joe, and and it's discovered that there was a little bit of conflict. Even the governor came out and said,
Yeah.
to paraphrase. Thoughts?
Okay, so there's three, you might say, intellectuals, bodies in the state when it comes to energy. The first is the State Energy Office, and I think they're most closely tied with the governor. I mean, they're a state office, so the governor can very easily influence them. I don't know if he does, but they are the most easily influenced anyways. Then you've got the university, and they have their own interests, just like in this report. Some of their researchers may get monies from here or there. And then there's the Natural Energy Office Lab. It's part of the university, but this entity seems to be the most sort of independent-minded, and they actually are very critical of the liquid natural gas effort that's going on right now. So then there's the push for solar or liquid natural gas, LNG. And so there's all these forces that are kind of in the ring together and duking it out. And you also have special interests in those forces. Of course, solar is a huge special interest. LNG is a huge special interest. And so they're all talking to different people and departments, and that's what we're seeing here. So the UHERO, the economic research organization out of the University of Hawaii, came out with a report that basically supported the path to solar. And of course, now they've been shown that maybe one of their researchers were given a lot of money from the solar industry. And so is this really independent, or what's going on here? And that's what I always have trouble with entering the energy space, because it seems that everyone I talk to has some kind of agenda, so it's hard to get the truth about what's really going on.
If you don't mind, I'll interject, because regulation is where we started, and regulation is where we look to UHERO with their reports. Does that call into question other areas? The reason I'm asking, because when I'm formulating my opinions, I'm relying on sources, and I just want to make sure when I'm kvetching about the cost of regulation, whether it's in housing or more, that I'm being correct.
Well, and to be fair, theoretically, just because someone gets money from a special interest group doesn't mean that they would then be, influenced in that direction. But it sure points to it. And the university, UHERO, has a stellar brand recognition. I'm sure that they're reeling and taking into account this, because if once your authority is and credibility are affected, then that's it.
That's tough.
So yeah, UHERO has a lot to say about all kinds of regulations. They came out with a report, by the way, that I referenced earlier, that Hawaii has the most burdensome housing regulations. And so, we need UHERO to be independent. It would be a good idea to, I don't know, go back to the drawing board and look at this a little bit more independently. Maybe all these organizations should talk to each other, by the way, get them all in the same room and then produce a report.
Yeah, we should have a UFC event.
Yeah.
It'd be better than the last one.
Yeah.
It's already 7:23 in the morning. Rick, I'm on a program with Joe Kent, Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. How do we connect?
Go to grassrootinstitute.org, or you can go to our Instagram at Grassroot Hawaii.
25th anniversary. It's coming 53 days away. I saw it on your website.
Yeah, I know. It's been 25 years, hard to believe, since 2001 when the Grassroots Institute was founded. And we're popping the champagne on September 4th at the Sheraton Waikiki. You can get your tickets at grassrootinstitute.org. And there you'll see Adam Carolla, comedian from California whose house burned down in the Palisades fires. Very similar, by the way, to the Lahaina experience that we've had here. And he has a lot to say about that. I mean, people should be able to rebuild. Permitting departments should not take years and years. We blue states should have policies that keep people here. Have you ever noticed that the blue states are the one that have a lot of people leaving?
Yeah.
So that's
migration.
Definitely what's going on here in Hawaii. Not that we have to turn to a red state or anything, but keeping the cost of living in check would definitely help.
What do you, again, just proffering opinion, the Maui mayor's race? Mayor Bisson is trailing substantially in fundraising to Councilmember
Yukile Sugimura.
Mm-hmm. And is this a reflection of the stewardship of the mayor during these crises?
Well, I think it definitely is. A lot of people on Maui were disappointed with the mayor's sort of lack of strength and leadership throughout the fires. Now, of course, if you talk to the other half of the island, they say, well, actually, Bisson was great, but that might be just a casualty of a disaster to begin with. I mean, is there any politician that goes through a disaster period of leadership and actually comes out on top?
Karen Bass, L.A.
Well, and then there's Governor Josh Green, by the way, who went through the COVID experience, and he did show, or at least a posture of leadership, and he had his whiteboard, and okay, here's what we're going to do. And so he had a tone of like, how can I help you? Let's get this done together. Here's all the information. Whereas on Maui, it seemed to be a little less transparent, you might say. So I think that's why he might be struggling to fundraise. So now Yukile Sugimura, on the other hand, I don't think I can even go to an event on Maui and not see her. She's like ghost everywhere, it seems like. So anyways, we'll see.
She has a financial advantage. I understand that one of her relatives donated $20,000 to her campaign, and that's just one of several great donations to her efforts. I'm going to ask you this, because the Campaign Spending Commission released, and at the top of the list is Josh, but Gary was kind of in the middle of the list, over 300,000+. Unfortunately, much of that has been spent leading up to the primary, which is coming up next month. Anyway, sidebar. Your thoughts about money in politics, specifically campaigning, and maybe, if you can, an update on your efforts on Act 11.
Well, a lot of people say that there's too much money in politics. some people say there's not enough money in politics going to the candidates that actually could do something and change things. I mean, money is just an expression of people's want and energy and desires, and so a candidate who's great at fundraising usually wins because they have the most money. That's not the same as a good candidate, by the way. Those are not the same thing.
Right.
Wouldn't it be nice if elections were decided on who was the best candidate rather than who had the most money?
I'd go with height. Let's just.
Then I would never win. You know? Although I'm not right. Wait, that was not an announcement. That was not.
Is this official?
No.
Are you in the game,
I am
Joe?
not in the game.
Okay.
But so and money in politics is very similar to speech. In fact, it is speech, of course, at least as far as the courts say.
Yeah.
If you spend to put an op-ed in the paper or to inform people and so on, that turns money into speech. And there was a law during the Hawaii State Legislative Session this past season that was called Act 11. It was passed and signed by the governor.
In like 20 seconds.
Yes, that's right, very quickly. But basically, it would try to get money out of politics, a seemingly good goal. But the problem is it gets free speech out of politics is really what it does. How does it do that? Well, if you were an organization that tried to speak out on a ballot issue, for example, like let's say there was a big tax hike, like an empty homes tax hike that actually looks like it will be on the ballot this year,
That's
or
another,
it might
yeah.
be anyways. And so if there was an issue like that and two people or an organization wanted to speak out on this, Act 11 would deem that to be illegal. And those people could be fined, or their organizations could be dissolved. And so this is a threat to free speech. We used to talk about matters that were on the ballot openly, like the rail issue way back in the day. And Grassroots Institute was a big part of that. We were trying to warn people that this is not going to cost $4 billion or $3 billion, whatever they're saying. It's likely to be double that. Actually, we were way off. It's more than double that.
2.7 billion was one of the initial estimates.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And so, speaking out about that during a ballot issue time, you could get dinged for that. Or same thing for speaking about a candidate. Now, people should be able to discuss their political opinions with each other, but if organizations do this, then that could be against the law too during an election season. So this is, this is free speech, and this is the United States of America, and Hawaii. In Hawaii's constitution, we also have free speech. So the Grassroots Institute is the lead plaintiff now, the only plaintiff actually, in a case against Act 11. We're being represented by the Institute for Free Speech. Nice name, huh?
There you go. First of all, thank you to GRI for taking this on. As you said, nobody else is, and it is at the heart. I agree 100%. The expression via campaign. But then again, on the flip side, as we look at the disparity, there's always been a conversation about government-funded campaigning. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the break. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can dovetail on that. And also the latest with the campaign. I don't want to go with the Office of Elections, but I think we might touch upon some of the goings on. Once again, remind us, how do we connect with you, Joe?
GrassrootsInstitute.org.
That we have the man, the myth, the legend. That's what it says on his business card. Joe Kent.
I thought we were talking about you, Rick.
No, not at all. Oh, goodness gracious. I appreciate you being with us. We were talking before about the bottom of the hour, a little bit about affordable housing. Then we came into Act 11. And I want to turn it back over to you for kind of completing our thoughts before we move on.
Well, yeah, we're hoping that this case goes well, and we're hoping that it goes in our favor when it comes to free speech arguments. because it actually does affect our organization quite a bit. We're actually trying to start up a 501c4 organization that's basically a nonprofit that anyone can donate to, just like the 501c3, but it allows us to lobby. And what is lobbying? Well, lobbying just means that you're talking to lawmakers and trying to educate them about things. And so we're trying to start this up, but Act 11 could get in the way. And so this law actually affects our whole organization. It actually could mean the dissolving of the Grassroots Institute or many other organizations or any other organization that speaks out. So if you want to help support us or learn more about this, go to grassrootsinstitute.org.
It would be far-reaching, and it would be punitive, and it defies free speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting that there was so much support in the Big Square building.
Oh, yes.
And that, to me, indicates, I've always maintained that we live in a nanny state, borderline third world country. And I don't mean to be pejorative, but I mean it's honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reminded, you mentioned, Josh, during COVID, the utter absolute control of people, of what they say, what they do, how they work, how they live, seems to be at the core of our dominated one side of government.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just flashing back again.
Well, you're right to think that this is like a philosophy, thing. Do you trust that other people will lead their lives accordingly? I don't, but I trust that there are enough good people in the world to help us all, move in the right direction. And I also trust, the free market competition much more than I do, a government. This actually came to light in the Honolulu Office of Economic Recovery debates that happened. We need to get our economy up and running. We need to help businesses. And how are we going to get our economy back? I know. Let's start a government office to, jumpstart the economy. And this is such a fallacy. And it permeates so many. Every single county has some kind of like economic office or doling out monies to try to jumpstart things. But it almost never works. And there was an audit actually in Honolulu Council that showed that it really didn't work. The office was started way back in 2020 during, when everyone said, oh, no, our economy is crashing. Remember that? And so the Honolulu said, well, we have to start this office. And at the time I'm thinking, well, gee, I wonder if they're going to close it whenever this is all done, Well, here we are 6 years later, and people are still arguing to keep this office that really hasn't done much at all except dole out, millions and millions of dollars going. And so there was a battle at the Honolulu City Council last week, and the Grassroots Institute weighed in on that battle. In fact, we were the only ones that weighed in in saying that this office should be closed and shuttered and save the millions of dollars for the taxpayers. And that argument actually won out, believe it or not. It won out twice. First, the council voted to close the office. Then the mayor voted to veto that and keep the office going. And then they overrode the veto to shutter the office and keep the money for taxpayers. So that was a rare win for Grassroots Institute and the taxpayer side.
Well, I would submit the counter, and not to be a sycophant for the mayor, but I recall during the period of time, the primary responsibility was, you said doling out, well, which is distributing those millions of dollars in federal COVID aid. And it had to do primarily with rental assistance and homes and things of that nature.
That's true.
And recognized by the federal government as being one of the most effective states in efficiently capturing and ensuring that those recipients receive those funds. There was another side of it, and perhaps the audit was correct. I'm not disputing, but I do take the position that an audit isn't necessarily the deal breaker to eliminate a department. The audit is saying, hey, listen, guys, this is what your stated objectives are. We're kind of seeing that you ain't making it. Then the council, in my opinion, would say, you have 60 days. You have 90, or what have you. Redo it, reformulate. $1.3 million is nothing to sneeze at. But when you have a $5 billion plus annual budget, then we take a look at, well, what other ancillary benefits are there now before having a reformation of the department? Our family experienced it. And that's in the assistance of creating a new business, having navigation in order to secure finance and funding, to really be that kind of centerpiece of starting a new business. And then certain cohorts would have interactions and anyhow, I saw it as kind of a different take. But that's what we have. We have a governmental structure that yes, no, and then we deal with whatever the decisions are. I just felt it was a bit punitive to utilize an audit to close when audits are usually designed to say these are some of the concerns.
Yeah, that's true. The audit had recommendations. And, there's many ways to deal with an audit. You can try to implement the recommendations. You can do, like you said, give a time limit to this. So the council, I guess, jumped at the chance to disband this office. Now, that sounds like,
my goodness.
interesting.
Oh, it's
Someone at the door?
No, it's actually the city council. They're giving us a call. I love it. I'm so sorry. I mean, of all people, Hamadi, you should turn your phone off. Anyway, sorry about that, Joe. Go right ahead.
Well, anyways, I was happy, anyways, that the money was saved, and it is really good to scrutinize and err on the side of a sharper axe when it comes to the budget, because otherwise, there's these initiatives just go on forever. And let's not forget that almost everything that this office does is duplicative with other departments and things in the budget. So, but reasonable minds can disagree, of course.
No, that's okay. The one thing I have a question though is that have you ever encountered an audit that may or may not have recommendations that are critical where a department was dismantled? Because I'm going through the one thing about audits that we always hear, you do the audit, nothing happens.
Right. That's true. That's why this is such a rare thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that in all my years here. So, very interesting.
Final point. And again, this is all just speculation. Political forces underway. Tommy Waters has made it clear that he's going to be a candidate for mayor. He's in a difficult kind of a challenge with Trevor Ozawa legally.
Right.
He's raised more money than both of his opponents for the primary substantially. You have Andrea Tupola, who has expressed aspirations for perhaps the same office. You have Val Okimoto, who ran unchallenged. So she's been installed as budget director. Anyway, there's all that's going on. Any insight into that?
Well, I view politics as a den of wolves. And here we are, a Grassroots Institute in the middle of it, the lamb to the slaughter.
You got both sides at
Yeah. But anyways, isn't it nice when you can direct those wolves to do the right thing occasionally? So, yeah.
There we go. Again, connecting with Grassroots, best way.
GrassrootsInstitute.org. And if you'd like to go to our gala on September 4th. That's grassrootsinstitute.org where you can get your tickets. So
fantastic. We're going to continue with Joe. I just cleared the lines. If you would like to call in, if you have a thought, comment, question, feel free to do so. Got about 10 minutes left in the program. You're dialed in. It is 7:47. To remind us in our conversation about the Office of Elections. There has been a notification from the feds in regard to the commission itself, in regard to voting, but it's also targeting other areas as well. Just your take on the commission and some of the latest developments.
Well, yes, the feds are basically saying that they will bar mail-in voting, but then a judge basically reversed that, and so now lawmakers are asking the elections commission, well, what's going on here, and what's your plan if the feds actually crack down on mail-in ballots? The commission didn't really have an answer to this. They just said, well, maybe we can get people to FedEx their their ballots in, which I'm not sure how feasible that is. But anyways, the Elections Commission itself has had all kinds of kerfuffles because of the thousands of missing ballots that happened in a recent election.
Yep.
And so, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing that we don't go to mail-in voting, especially since we have all these question marks and distrust of the process. I mean, everyone trusts at least trusts more so in-person voting. And so, okay, yes, it's not convenient, but that's not the point of democracy, to be convenient.
Amen.
The point of democracy is one person, one vote. And so the feds are also trying to crack down on any non-U.S. citizens that would be voting as well. The Office of Elections says, well, what are they talking about? Non-citizens don't vote. It's kind of like a non-issue for them. So, but do they, though? And how readily can you prove this in a mail-in system and so on? So, I'm for the system that's the most secure and rather than the most convenient. And so, but we'll see what happens. I have no idea if this could be reversed in the courts and all of that before the election. So I doubt it, actually.
So what is disquieting is that this is really the primary tool for citizens to direct government. And we lose sight sometimes that it is the people that are in charge. And through the election process, we determine who our proxy is going to be. But if you can't rely on accurate vote counts, what do you have? We talked about UHERO and reports that are issued with questions. The question of mail-in balloting, for me personally, I abhor it. I agree 100%. And by the way, if you can't be bothered, you already get time off. Some get half days off. Some get full days off to go down and cast your vote. Come on now. Remember the purple thumb of Iraqis when they had their first vote after Saddam Hussein's overthrow.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, the elections should actually be as secure as possible, I think. And so, if it takes a long time, if you have to go down, a lot of people in Hawaii are obsessed with the idea that we need to get as many people to vote as possible. It's like we need to get every single person in the state to vote or something. But when someone doesn't vote, that's a vote. That's a vote too, by the way.
Yeah.
If they decide to go to the beach or whatever, now, and Hawaii, I think, has the lowest voter turnout of any state. Well, that is a vote. These people don't want to participate. And then the people that do want to participate, their vote counts even more because then you don't have all this fluff. And so now, of course, it might be a good idea. I don't really care about the outcome of the election. I just care that it's done in the right way, I guess. And for Grassroots Institute, I mean, we'll work with any politician. We don't electioneer. We don't tell anybody who to vote for or any of that. But it should be done in the right way.
I agree. And our uniqueness is that we are the state with the most unionized membership per capita. And let's be honest, the activation of the union vote is very methodical, it's very precise, and it's traditional. Unions vote for whatever reason you want to identify. And so you're already, as a regular citizen, you're up against a substantial opponent in regard to your vote. Because, as you said, be at the beach, don't want to, disenfranchise, whatever the reasons are. And I think as long as that is the formula, the education point is, I've been saying for 30 years, there's more of us than them. And that means union leadership and what they decide for their members. But if we don't come together, then it's always going to be a very special interest that dictates politics, touches your life every single day, whether you like it or not, is my mantra. And that's why election time, when it rolls around, I get a little, talk about kerfuffle. So anyhow, I'm just expressing what our realities are. When people are upset with the elections, I say, look in the mirror.
Well, the bottom line is that elections have to do with power. And whenever there is a struggle over power, then the powers that be will marshal their forces in one way or another. So if you have a mechanism that gets more people to vote, then the powers that be will gear towards that mechanism and try to get as many of those people to vote for them. Or if you have a mechanism that says that, unions are the way to win, then that's where the powers will direct their efforts. Now, Milton Friedman once said, he's an economist from long ago, said that there are no special interest groups in, where you can't vote. If you don't want any special interest groups, then just don't have elections at all, right? Just have a king or something. Now, and that just goes to show that that is power, And so this is all just sort of different ways of spreading out power. But we always need to have some system where regular people, a regular Joe, can try to counteract that power, or even form an entity or talk to his neighbors and discuss politics. And that goes back to Act 11 that I was talking about earlier, the free speech rights.
And that's the overwhelming majority, because there's a vested interest to squelch. And I marvel at just how blatant it truly is. So oh my goodness, Joe Kent, regular Joe.
Oh, right.
We're already there.
It happened again.
Wow.
Yes, that tends to happen.
That just snuck up on us. Gayla, tell us.
September 4th, you can get your tickets at grassrootinstitute.org. It's going to be a fun time in Sheraton, Waikiki with Adam Carolla. grassrootinstitute.org.
Yeah, it's going to be great because Joe is going to take the stage. And I don't know if it's dancing or singing.
Ukulele playing. Sure.
There we go. Love it. Joe, thank you so very much, as always, for taking the time.
Thanks, Rick.
Appreciate it.